Good evening. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the evening of Wednesday, the 1st of July. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer trade charts, and I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at ctmthebiggerpicture.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after delay every week. All right, now, I was talking about it on Sunday, but I just want to mention again that we're actually going through a pretty bullish leaning period here historically. And we had a very bullish leaning day today, which didn't really use leather. We've got a neutral day tomorrow, which is, and then obviously a holiday on Friday. After that, next week, we've got no bearish days for basically 2.5 weeks. We've then got, Monday, Thursday, and Friday are bullish leaning next week, and then Monday, Tuesday, and Friday the following week, and then Monday the 20th, which is basically the end of the period. Well, this is a period in which we could see almost 3 weeks, and we could see some significant gains. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. But it's got a strong bullish lean historically. I'm not seeing any particular obstacle in its way. It looks like the war is at least on hold for the time being, and we will see how that goes, but it looks as though it looks as though the first period of 60 days will probably go through all right. And after that, there is talk that one of the reasons we're having this ceasefire, it doesn't seem to be so far because they were particularly interested in any of the terms of the ceasefire. But there is talk that actually this is a overall a move just to delay any resumption of the war until after the midterms, which might be right. Certainly, on the US side, there doesn't seem to be much interest in following the terms of the agreement, the memorandum of understanding that was actually signed. And to be honest, if they're just basically using this as a delaying tactic to get past the midterms, that would make a lot of sense. Anyway, in the short term, a few days ago, obviously, I posted the flags that I was looking at, and we are on the verge of breaking up. We haven't quite broken up, but we have broken up from a double bottom, which is broken up with the target in the 75.94 to 76.03 range. We didn't quite make the first target today. We got to 75.78, but we're getting pretty close into the area. Now, one reason we didn't make it today was because we had a rather weak day on NQ. Well, double bottom has broken up from there with a target to retest the all-time high, and I'm still expecting to make that. And today's action looks like a bull flag, but obviously it was fairly firmly pointed down. RTY made a new all-time high. YM made a new all-time high. DAX is on the way back to retesting the all-time high, I think, in this 2-week bullish period. I'm expecting to see high retests on SPX and QQQ as well. We have got a 60-minute sell signal fixed here, and I'm wondering if that might fail, but we'll see what happens in the next day or two. If we see some retracement tomorrow, and we have a neutral day tomorrow, then maybe that could play out. ESTX, no current divergence, still pretty close to the highs. Nikkei, we've got a flag here, and it did look like it was breaking up, and it might be breaking up, but at the moment we've been heading back towards support. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. And on SPX, this is the flag on the hourly chart, and as you can see, we've come up perfectly to the declining resistance trend line today. Haven't broken above it yet, but when we do, I'll be looking for a retest of the all-time high, which is something we're owed from the head and shoulders, which broke down and failed. In terms of the 60-minute chart, this is actually an RSI 5 sell signal fixed. I haven't drawn that in on there, but it is, and we do have a potential at a level top here. I am wondering about seeing some retracement tomorrow. On the daily chart, I've drawn on the new monthly pivots, of course, and I sent those out with the ordinary email this morning, but I'll send a copy out, obviously, with this email. But we've got back over the daily middle band, and we traded above that today. As long as that's holding, the next obvious target is a retest of the all-time high. Yes. Pretty much exactly the same. Looking at the 15-minute today, nothing really that lasted into the end of the day, although this was a signal which played out intraday. I'm liking the upside and not seeing any particular reason to think that we won't go up. All right, Qs. We broke back over the daily middle band and we managed to hold above it today, even if most of the action from the last little high was quite bearish. On the hourly chart, no current divergence. 15-minute chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal, which has reached the possible near miss target. We shall see. Looking at Dia. Dia was never close to the daily middle band. This was really tech-led. So the getting down below the daily middle band was something that we only saw on Qs and SPX. Dia never even got close to it as a retracement. Hourly chart, no current divergence. 15-minute chart, no current divergence. We do have a potential little level top here, and we do have a wedge support trend line, which is going to need a test at some point, but it doesn't necessarily need that now. If we do see that, that's in the 512 area. All right, let's have a look at that let's have a look at IWM. All right, IWM, again, we never really retraced significantly, and we didn't get close to a test of the daily middle band. Again, I've got a rising wedge here. Again, I am wondering whether we might come down and test the support, which I've got currently at about the 288 area. We shall see. No divergence on the hourly chart, nothing on the 15-minute chart either. But this is the short-term rising wedge, and yeah. I've got this support in about the 289 area, and I am wondering if that might get a test if we do see some kind of retracement tomorrow. And we do have a possible level top here too. All right, looking at DAX, back over the daily middle band. Did we close over that today? Yes, we did. As long as it can hold above it, I'm looking for a retest of the all-time high, which is at 25.5K and was made in January. Looking at Nikkei, Nikkei back tested the daily middle band, held it perfectly, expecting to see a retest of the all-time high sooner rather than later. Again, I've got a pattern here. It's a nice looking rising megaphone, and the megaphone support, if we should see that tested, is in about the 65,700 area. All right, moving on to the dollar. Okay, dollar. This looks like we could be forming a larger flag here, A, B, C. But I'm thinking we may well be seeing the flag, the flag's already formed, is breaking up, and we'll see a retest of this current high here soon. Looking at the other currencies, USD, this looks like a little level top which is breaking down. We will see how that develops, but if that is the case, then it makes target. Then obviously that would get us back up, but down to the retest of the lows and likely to deliver that retest of the high on the dollar. GBP USD, we've actually interestingly got an IHS which might be breaking up here. I'm not expecting to see this deliver much, and we're testing the monthly pivot as new monthly pivot as resistance at the moment. USD/JPY, 60-minute sell signal reached the possible near miss target. We made it up to my 162 level. Doesn't need to stop there, but that's the target I've been talking about for months, and it has now been made. USD CAD looks like a bullish consolidation here. Australian dollar kind of looks like a bearish consolidation here. We already made the head and shoulder target, and on NZUSD we've made the double top target. Sorry, yeah, it is a double top. It's and that after that, it kind of looks like a flag or a bearish consolidation before this likely goes lower. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. Not a lot to see on these. If we do see a retest of the high, we could be setting up some decent daily sell signals. Bigger picture, obviously, we've got the big flag, and I'm thinking we could see a significant move to the upside. We are testing the monthly middle band at the moment and are slightly above it. Not a lot else to say on that. UUSD, of course, has a big bear flag to match the bull flag on the dollar. So is GBP USD. No divergence on the daily chart on Euro, no divergence apart from the RSI 5 buy signal, which is fixed and already made the possible near miss target on GBP. USD, JPY, I've been looking for months for this retest of 162. This is a potential level top here, but we do have within this megaphone, which of course could still overthrow, but within the megaphone we've got clear territory up to about 169 if needed. In terms of the daily chart, no current divergence, but it could probably use a bit of a pullback. RSI is looking pretty extended. USD CAD, I'm leaning towards this heading up towards the retest this high here at 147.93. No current, nothing really happening on the weekly chart, nothing really happening on the daily chart, but when we retest the high, we'll have a bit of weak negative divergence. On the Australian dollar, RSI 5 sell signal fixed, and I'm leaning towards the downside. We have a decent looking double top or part formed head and shoulders here on NZ. We broke up from this triangle here, and I think we're probably heading back into the lows. That could be the triangle expanding, or it could be about to break down from it. We will see. In terms of a pattern here, not really seeing anything in terms of a topping pattern or a obvious target on the downside, apart from the triangle support which I've got in the 0.55 area. All right, great. Let's have a look at bonds. All right, ZB. We had a sharp retracement, and this actually made a sell signal on the bigger picture chart. No, it was a buy signal because, of course, it was on the yields. And we've now got a buy signal fixed and haven't really rallied much from the low at the moment, but I am wondering if we might be forming a head and shoulders here or maybe retest the high. I was wondering about a failure here. And we've seen some movement to suggest that might be the case, but we haven't seen a conviction break really of this rising support trend line, which is the main thing I've been watching. We did see a slight break though. Anyway, the sell signal made target. We've got a buy signal fixed, and we're seeing what happens there. All right, looking at the bigger picture charts on those. TYX. TYX is where we had an RSI 5 buy signal, and that has quickly made target and actually got it back over the daily middle band. So watching that with interest. We could be returning back up to retest the highs here. Looking at TNX. TNX, we didn't have a signal, but again, we're closing back over the daily middle band, and we closed slightly above that today as well. Looking at TLT, we did have a sell signal here, and that's reached basically the full target now. So the divergences that I was pointing out over the, I think it was on the last bigger picture webinar has now played out, and we've got a decision to make. But we have got through the daily middle bands on all three of those, and it will be interesting to see what happens next. All right, let's have a look at oil. All right, oil has been trending down still a little more. This is interesting. We've got possible 60-minute buy signal brewing. The last two delivered like a champ, one before that failed, of course. We do have a potential double bottom here, or part formed inverted head and shoulders, and we do have this really across the board. We've got a possible 60-minute buy signal, nice looking double bottom, or part formed IHS here on the CL chart. On HO, we've got an IHS which is broken up with a target in the 3.47 area. On RBOB, we've got a double bottom which is broken up with a target in the 3.1085 to 3.1425 range. We've come a long way down here, and honestly, generally speaking, you're going to see some sort of a bounce which is more than we have seen so far. And we've already got back down to, we actually made the target, which I was doubtful about. The head and shoulders, which broke down with a target in the 68 area, that's made the target today. So I'm wondering about a bounce here, and I'm wondering if we might see a significant rally here, because really this came down pretty quickly from, well, it's a bit higher than it shows here, because obviously when we've rolled contracts, but really this came down from about 105 to 68. That's a big move down. And really, I'm looking for a rally. I'll talk more about the straightforward moves on the bigger picture charts, but there's enough. Well, I've been reading a lot about this, and one of the arguments I've been hearing is that actually enough has been released from reserves that at the moment there are no visible shortages. But the problem is that the reserves are still dropping. The amount of traffic coming through the Strait of Hormuz is not actually enough to eliminate the ongoing deficit, let alone actually start building up stocks again. So we will see how it goes. But really, I'm leaning towards seeing a decent rally, and really, I'm expecting to see that sooner rather than later. We'll see whether I'm right. All right, looking at NG. NG is not really affected by the Strait, although this is because this is mainly piped. In terms of liquid natural gas, which really is a different market, that's actually been affected quite a lot, but that's not something I tend to follow here. In terms of the bigger picture charts, let's have a look. This is the Strait of Hormuz, odds of it returning to normal by July the 31st. You can see this is the period just before the peace deal was done, when it had reached a low of 26%. And this is the high it made after the deal was done, when it reached a high of 63%. And now it's back down to 30 again. There's not a lot of optimism about things getting back to normal. And there's good reason for there not to be a lot of optimism, actually. The amount of traffic going through isn't too bad, but isn't back to pre-war levels or anything particularly close to it. We're still looking at elevated insurance premiums, although this is the lowest I've seen this today. And we still have a whole load of vessels waiting without too many actually going through the Strait. That is going to be a problem. And an awful lot of the oil that is going through the Strait is Iranian oil that's going to China. Now, that's a bit of a problem because, of course, China basically cut down a lot of its purchases while this Strait of Hormuz thing has been playing out. So if most of the Iranian oil is going to China, which it appears to be, then actually they've been staying out of the market, and that's not really going to help with the shortages elsewhere. So we will see how it goes. But I think altogether, I'm wondering about a rally here. I've been talking for a while about waiting to see when we had some decent divergence here, and this is a full-size RSI 14 bicycle brewing here. It's no longer a weak one. We've now got a full-size RSI 5 bicycle brewing here. This is the sort of thing I was thinking that we might see before we saw a decent rally. We will see how that goes, but I'm liking it, and we've got what looks like bottoming action here, potentially reaching a floor. We will see. In terms of WTech, this is now a full-size RSI 5 bicycle brewing. Still a bit weak on the RSI 14, but it's a lot of bicycle. And this is what I was talking about when I was saying that we needed a rally big enough to move the needle and get the RSI back up to the 30 level. And that's what we've seen. So we've gone lower again afterwards. So that's what we need to get ourselves a bicycle. So nice looking bicycles brewing here. In terms of the hourly chart here, we've got another weak RSI 14 bicycle brewing, possible bottoming action. We shall see. Looking at heating oil really has been rather different, and so is gas oil. So we haven't got anything on the daily chart. This could be a flag here on the futures. No, sorry, this could be an IHS here. But here, if it is an IHS, it's already failed. Could be forming a larger one here, but I'm doubtful about it. It's not a great looking pattern. In terms of gas oil, we already had an RSI 5 bicycle fix, and that hasn't made target yet. It's not managing to get back over the daily middle band here, and that's actually fairly important. In terms of pattern here, not wild about the pattern here either. It looks like a double bottom on the future here. Looks more like a bear flag, so we shall see. In terms of natural gas, we are still testing the 200 DMA as resistance. If that holds, then we're likely forming a top here and we head down. If it doesn't hold, then that opens up a whole new range above. All right, great. Let's have a look at precious metals. All right. GC, we've got a little double bottom here, which is broken up with a target in the 4235 to 4250 range. That's actually backed up by a daily buy signal, and I like it. It's only a small pattern. We've got a larger potential bottoming pattern here, but I am thinking that we might have reached a significant low. SI, this still looks, unfortunately, quite a lot like a bear flag, suggesting we may see a retest of this low. Palladium, pretty nice looking overall double bottom. Platinum, pretty nice smaller double bottom. We've got some positive divergence here, and I'm thinking we might be looking at the start of a rally, or possibly the move to get us back into a retest of the all-time high. Looking at HG, we got a little level top here, which broke down with a target in the 5.66 area. There's a reservation here. This looks less good on this chart, on the futures chart, than it does on the spot chart. Which I would tend to take more notice of. So watching to see if that delivers. We shall see. I have wondered if that might be going up with equities in the last few days, but there's been very little sign of that happening. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And on gold, we've got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed, and we've got an RSI 14 buy signal brewing. I do like to see these double signals. They tend to be a pretty good sign. We've got a nice looking overall double bottom here, and a potential, and a double bottom trying to break up here at the moment. Need to get back over the daily middle band and start making tracks to the upside, but this is a pretty good place for this to reverse back up. And this is actually a little double bottom here, which is breaking up, a larger double bottom here, and now, of course, obviously, we've got the largest double bottom here with the neckline here. This is actually potentially a pattern to take us all the way back up into the all-time high. So watching that with great interest. In terms of silver, no current divergence. Very nice looking little channel here. Needs to break up. So we shall see. Palladium. No current divergence, but we've got a very nice looking falling wedge here, little bullish underthrow there. Again, this is looking very promising, and we've got a very nice looking little level bottom here. On platinum, no current divergence. No, that's wrong. There's now a possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing, and we've got another possible wedge there, but we'd need to go a little lower to get to support if we were going to do that. As it is, though, not a great short-term bottoming setup here. Nice looking little level bottom here, and we've got positive divergence, which is looking promising. So we shall see. If we see another little retest of this low, we'll also get positive divergence on the RSI 5. All right, looking at copper. Copper, little level top has broken down. This is the spot chart where that actually is a very nice looking level top. We've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal, but that's already reached the possible near miss target. We've got a nested double top here, so if we've reached the target here and get down to the 5.268 area, that is double top support for a potentially much larger double top. All right, looking at GDX. GDX, not a bad looking little double bottom here, although it hasn't quite retested this low, and that looks exactly the same on GDXJ. So I am wondering if these would be improved if they did retest the lows, and I'm wondering if they might. In terms of the hourly charts, no current divergence worth a mention, but I am thinking this is probably bottoming out here. All right, great. Let's have a look at the other commodities. Right, KC has been on a run. I had a chart here with I was talking about the inverse head and shoulders here on Sunday, and boy oh boy has that been delivering. So we have broken up and almost made the target here in a couple of days. Not quite. I've got the target in the 317.70 area, and we've not quite delivered that today. The high was at 316.40, but that was nonetheless a very good effort, and chances are we'll be reaching that shortly. We've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. That might be turning into a larger signal. We've got a larger signal there already brewing. No particular need for that to fail. We're certainly very close to this target, and you quite often see a reversal there. All right, SB. SB, nice move up, 60-minute sell signal, which is mainly notable because it hasn't failed yet, even though we've gone up quite a lot since it fixed. Could be forming a... I don't think we're forming an IHS here, but I would say I do think this is an overall double bottom. We'll have a look at this on the bigger picture chart. CC looks like a bullish consolidation. Lumber, this looks like a little bear flag setting up a retest of this low. We've got a weak 60-minute buy signal fixed, which hasn't really been doing anything. CT, more to say about this on the daily chart. Wheat, I was talking about a retest of the low, and we've seen one. We've got a potential double bottom here. I was talking about that on corn. We've seen that too. We got a potential double bottom here on soy. We didn't quite reach it, but again, I'm wondering about a possible reversal. ZL, we had a little bear flag, and we retested the low. We got a nice looking double bottom there. Live cattle, we have a possible bull flag here. We're certainly owed unfinished business above at a retest of this high here in the 251.5 area, so I'm leaning towards seeing that now that the sell signal is played out. And live lean hogs, this looks an awful lot like a bear flag megaphone. So I'm leaning towards this heading down, retesting this low here in the 93.9 area, I think, and then potentially forming a double bottom there. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at the Let's have a look at the coffee chart. Now, coffee, we had a sell signal here which failed. An IHS broke up with a target in the 317 area, and as I said, we have almost made it. So we do have some fairly impressive resistance in about the 319.50 area, and that is a potential inverted head and shoulders neckline. We could see a pullback, ideally quite a deep pullback, to form a right shoulder, potentially to take this higher. Looking at sugar, we've got a very nice looking falling wedge here, and we've now finally broken the declining resistance trend lines. So this is bottoming out, I think. How will it bottom out? Good question. Either it's going to need a retest of the lows, set up a double bottom, or we form an IHS further up. But either way, this is potentially a significant break, and I'm looking for a rally. No current divergence on the daily chart, worth to mention. On cocoa, we have proceeded a bit higher here. Not clear what's happening here from a pattern point of view, really, but I am watching the potential inverted head and shoulder neckline in the 64.41 area. All right, looking at lumber, still overall a bearish setup, which is not going down yet, but probably will at some stage. No current divergence here. Back testing the daily middle band and holding that so far. Looking at cotton, we have we had a double bottom here. We broke up, we made the target, we pulled back, and we've got a nice looking little double bottom here, which is trying to break up. This looks rather better than it does on the futures, and I'd be more inclined to take this chart as the correct one, as this is the spot chart. So we haven't broken up from this double bottom, but if we can sustain a break over 81.08, then that would have the target basically at a retest of this high. In terms of wheat, we've got no divergence on the daily chart. Nice looking double bottom here. Again, that would get us much of the way back to the last high. On corn, nice looking double bottom here. This would leave us short of the last high, but still get us a decent rally into the 445 to 450 range. Looking at soybeans, we've actually got on the spot chart here a very nice looking double bottom. We haven't got one on the futures chart, but as I said, I would take the spot one as the correct one. So if we can break up over the daily middle band and break up over 1139, this would give us a target, again, not back up at the highs, but certainly up in the 1180 to 1185 area. All right, let's have a look at crypto. Bear with me a second. All right, crypto. Looking at Bitcoin, we have been kicking around near the lows. We've got a possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing on Bitcoin, and we've now got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed on Bitcoin. I am liking the upside here. And I'm liking this as a nice looking nested double bottom setup. We've got a little double bottom here, which is starting to break up, and we've got a bigger double bottom here, and we've got a really big double bottom here. Now, I'm not thinking this is the bear market low. This is a bit early for that. I'd be more comfortable seeing that in September, but I am thinking we might see a very decent rally here. But that is weakened to a certain degree by the fact that Solana has not retested the low, and might still be forming a bear flag, and Ethereum, well, it hasn't retested the low either. Almost, but not quite. This would at least be a serviceable double bottom, but the really big setup is on Bitcoin. But I'm taking that more seriously because Bitcoin is the big dog here. So it deserves to be taken more seriously than the others. We shall see how that goes. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys again on Wednesday. All right, on Sunday. Cheers. Oh, and everyone have a wonderful 4th of July. All right, cheers.